My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is impossible light activity where my shadow is appearing above my head. This is not normal light activity, and in addition to that, I've got more than one shadow. Pay attention, there's more than one shadow there. This is just for regarding the bathroom monitoring that's underway. This is my shadow that's occurring, and I'm in a dark living room. That's impossible light activity, however, not sunlight, meaning it's intentionally placed for the criminal purposes of demons who are group stalking. And that represents what the city of Ontario, what the state of California is engaged in, and it's demonic. And this illuminated light is distinct from what is this illuminated light causing a shadow in the depths of a dark apartment, a dark living room with all the blinds closed. And that's not sunlight either. It's engineered light that is stationary. I capture this same light activity at 7 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. It has nothing to do with the sun, which again is not the sun because the same light source is hovering directly over the roof of this apartment building, Woodside Senior Apartments, as early as 7:18 in the morning as a matter of documentation. And also sunlight is not going to appear on the inside, underneath closed blinds on the inside of the apartment. And also there's a covered patio out here. The patio is that which is a structure that would create shade. You're looking at what is the placement of, referred to as sunlight ignorantly, but this is ILA because of the unnatural placement and maintenance of this light and the character of the light creating a shadow on the ceiling. So look, multiple shadows here. Here it is on the ceiling, and then you also have another shadow here. I've got multiple shadows. This is the light activity you saw inside of the witch. She was a group stalker and a violent sex offender. Okay, this is a shadow that's on the wall, and then this is the additional shadow that's above, and that's not the product of sunlight. And also the sun is not going to be stationary over one address, which is what Woodside Senior Apartments is documented as, and that's a facilitated venue where group stalking is underway, not a private residence that's engaged in any constitutionally protected engagement of what is just living your life. This is federal group stalking monitoring, and the entire property, which represents the people, are group stalking and they're violent sex offenders who just engaged in the corporate sexual act of what is bathroom monitoring, a perpetual sex offense, where the engineered light is underneath the patio structure. It's a scientific impossibility, not the product of the sun that's above us. You're understanding gymnastics with sunlight. And by the way, it's 2:26, and you already know after 4 p.m. the fake sun is still here. After 5, after 6 p.m. the fake sun is still at Woodside Senior Apartments, and the engineered light remains stationary. And then you have the placement of this engineered light through the closed blinds on the ground And what you just saw were shadows, my two additional shadows here on top of what you saw above my head. And then we'll show you you can look at the shadow of the doorknob. This is illuminated engineered light. That's just concentrated engineered light, which is what this is. None of it's sunlight. And it's all demonic. All right, this is more engineered light creating the shadow of the patio door, flat on the ground to the sweeping on the inside. That's P.O.C. That's not sunlight. You're recognizing the engineered light that covers the property, and this is the fake sun. You have a property that's full of senior citizens who are violent sex offenders. They are obsessed with my genitalia. They are consumed with what's going on inside of a restroom. That's a private space. And this is where the sex offender whose image you've seen her group stalking in this parking lot, driving, and engineer light sweeping across the brick wall. That demon lives in 55, and they are stalking with amplified noise and engineered light under a fake sun that remains here 7/18, 6/27 in the afternoon. An entire police department is group stalking and monitoring my genitalia. The city, the municipality, the city of Ontario, and Ontario International Airport is group stalking. I want you to see engineered light in the shade. That's it right here. In front of what is AVANATH Communities. AVANATH is the the company that's going to be prosecuted because federal group stalking monitoring is occurring on the property of where the Ontario International Airport is group stalking in commercial planes. These are demons that resort to stalking in such unheard of methods. They're flying behind this tree right here. You've been doing that since 2019. Exiting outside of apartment 41 or living in apartment 41 is P.O.C, where you are looking at the intent to maintain elements of monitoring under a fake sun amongst amplified audible activity. So this is documentation of what is bathroom monitoring, and I will expound upon that on the podcast. It is currently 2:28 p.m. This is documentation of the sex offense, the perpetual sex offense committed by an entity that's group stalking you in concert with the people, living in an apartment that's filled with engineered light, opening and closing a refrigerator, opening a microwave, walking back and forth, turning on lights is criminal monitoring, and it's a sex offense as well, and it's what psychopaths engage in and violent sex offenders. And they do so. This represents the police department that's group stalking. This represents the city, the population, all units in 33 through 60 at Woodside Senior Apartments R&D going to federal prison for the sex offense that they engage in concert with the people. That includes the demon that's group stalking inside of this apartment, monitoring in real time. All right, this is the sex offender whose name and will be going to federal prison, P.O.C. All right, it is currently 2:29 p.m. It's Sunday, November 3rd, 2024. And with regard to the obsessive and criminal endeavor of a demon-possessed entity that is group stalking, that explains the ongoing noise that you'll hear in the background because the demon is engaged in real-time criminal conduct for which she and everybody else is going to federal prison at Woodside Senior Apartments. But nonetheless, I'm documenting what is a perpetual sex offense, and I just captured video, which I will include as... Matter of fact, you heard it first because I'm going to put the video first as far as chronologically. But what happened first is the sex offense, and that's just an iteration of the sex offense of federal group stalking and monitoring. That is when an entity that is already criminally monitoring you, that includes every police department, every fire department, and this is already supported by the evidence, the fact that the city of Ontario is a group stalker, which is the fact that the state of California is a group stalker. And you're literally hearing that because all the ruffling, all the lights turning on, which we'll see in the video, it's called light activity and audible activity, and only demons are engaged in group stalking, so you're witnessing demonic activity inside of a facilitating venue, which is the apartment, where the fake sun is hovering over that apartment, where engineered light is appearing literally in the shade, where my shadow is appearing above my head, where I have multiple shadows, where you're seeing things such as sunlight appearing underneath the coverage structure, which is not the product of sunlight. It's literally a scientific impossibility. You have just sunlight appearing in places where it's impossible that sunlight would be. That's understanding the specific environment, not the natural environment. That specific environment is there for what you are understanding is a criminal purpose in order that a community can conveniently and it's supposed to be secretly target someone and maliciously appear as though it's just everyday life. It's just disinterested, ordinary conduct, such as an airport flying over the apartment complex. Ontario International Airport is also captured as a matter of my narration, because I saw the commercial, and you've seen them do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're group stalking and monitoring my genitalia 24/7. They're engaged in federal stalking 24/7. They're engaged in state surveillance 24/7. And Alan D. WAPNER is a sex offender who shall not remain as a president over a corrupt airport that has been documented engaging in this sex offense and state surveillance, domestic terrorism, as a matter of documentation since 2019. Alan D. WAPNER, whether or not he is the same president since 2019, is speaking to what is and ongoing tradition for group stalking by the Ontario International Airport. This is requiring, it's the same analysis, the same requirement is shown through the police department. Every successor is engaging in facilitating, maintaining the same exact criminal system, which perpetuates sexual violence of a demented nature. Demons who are obsessed with your genitalia, monitoring your genitalia, and they facilitate, enable, encourage this, practice this with the very constituents of the state, including the group stalker who's inside of this apartment monitoring group stalking right now, is a career sex offender, has been engaged in sexual violence since I was a child, and is now engaging in sexual violence on the national scene, which is one of the main reasons why she is going to federal prison, for the impunity that is being documented literally as she's group stalking, making what is criminal activity creation. All right, you're not free to live in this specific environment. You're not free to literally engage in making a peep. And why the severity of it is monitoring by the government. The government, by the way, to remind you, is monitoring you because they are acting in furtherance of a conspiracy to murder you. No, you are not free to engage in monitoring an American citizen with a corrupt government that's practicing a satanic means of psychological torture in order to murder and kidnap. How does a corrupt government kidnap you? By defaming you, falsely depicting you as a criminal or as mentally insane in one way or another. And that's exactly what this third party inside of this apartment is also documented for years engaging in, which is another basis for federal imprisonment for the rest of her life. The entities engaging in this, however, with the entire community, and that's a massive sex offense, that which has never been addressed under federal legislation, and it's to be recognized and appreciated under federal law that a corrupt entity is a sex offender that is group stalking. All private personal matters are public information amongst the entity that is group stalking you, including as you step within the four walls of a bathroom. And the demons are still pacing all around with knowledge of that. They are cognizant of your status. You're being indisposed, you're being nude, you're engaging in something such as putting on a tampon, which requires your panties to be down, your legs to be spread open, to be in that indisposed nature, and a demon that is sexually gratified, that also derives pleasure out of violating you, psychologically harming you, especially when they're monitoring documentation, which is speaking to the deliberate and willful conduct of monitoring someone who knows that they're subject to that monitoring. This is a sexually violent aspect of that P.O.C. Understand that this is the sexual violence of psychopaths. This is the product of demon possession on human beings who are engaging in that level of sexual violence as a community, as a police department, as a fire department. Remember, all of the means of group stalking is concentrated inside of a bathroom amongst demons who are stalking with activity creation. You don't have the luxury to be separate because it's not helicopter. Oh, no. Everyone remembers that the police are group stalking, and that includes in the bathroom. And this is why the Ontario Police Department is also going to be disbanded, because they are a group of sex offenders who have been group stalking me inside of bathrooms inside of in the city of Ontario for years, by the way. They're violent sex offenders. And this is both under the watch of Derek, the demon that's the former police chief, and Mike, the current police chief, where the same exact criminal system and sexual violence is underway in concert with an entire population of closeted sex offenders whose appetite for sexual violence is no longer a secret. And so this is providing context regarding what it is that I'm subject to. I'm capturing the video, and in the video you will see my shadow appearing above my head. A shadow appearing above your head is a scientific impossibility unless you are literally standing in front of a spotlight that has light aimed directly above you. That is where you'll have that sort of light activity normally occur. Okay, now you're looking at engineer light inside of the apartment, and my shadow above my head, that's understanding the unnatural character of the engineered light. That is under no circumstances the natural product of sunlight. That's providing the context regarding the noise that you're hearing in the background. This is a demon who's also obsessed with my genitalia, who was group stalking with a whole population. That is not a paternal or maternal figure. That's a sex offender, a career sex offender who is going to federal prison for a federal basis of sexual violence, not just the fact that a career sex offender that's been engaged in violating a child, okay? Up until now, I am well beyond a child. I'm a full-grown woman who can clearly articulate the sexual violence that you are engaging in, and you do so with impunity. Such monsters belong in federal facilities, and that's exactly where this sex offender is going. But in case you need to understand, and you do need to understand, in case, let me clarify, a group stalker is a violent sex offender. and they currently are walking around wanting to appear being mistaken for ordinary American citizens who are mistaken for, by the way, nurturers, where they've got newborn babies and they're group stalking me. You've witnessed sex offenders, because this is what they do with their children. This is what they do with the rest of the demons in the neighborhood. This is what they do with the corrupt government who's targeting their children, and they are teaching them, if they are not a target of that system, to engage in sexual violence. And so that's the harm that is presented toward those under the age of majority who are group stalking in the state of California. You have sex offenders that have yet to commit a crime under natural law, but you have sex offenders that are indeed sex offenders right now with regard to the system that's underway. And it's a demonic means of sexual violence. It's a covert means of sexual violence. It's sexual violence committed by an entity which those under the age of majority represent while they're group stalking with the state. All right. And that is no less sexual violence, by the way. It's no less harmful to that targeted individual, by the way, and it shall be a means of recovery, criminal prosecution under federal law. So inside of the private space, I'm documenting at or around 2:20 p.m. I am subject to what is, while being in that condition, that status that I just described. And the reason why is because you need to understand how gross the type of degenerates who are group stalking, who are obsessed with genitalia of another, who are obsessed. And by the way, if you're obsessed with your own genitalia, that's a method to seek help as well, because obsession is not normal. The group stalker is obsessed with somebody else's genitalia. They're obsessed with what you're doing inside of a private space, where they shouldn't be stalking you under any circumstances anyway, and you're a psychopath stalking somebody where you live, because that's exactly what group stalking consists of. You are group stalking where you think you have a sense of protection from the law because you can't. No, that's a lie. They're basing it on the ideas in which you're assuming what traditional stalking is, where you are protected. You're not stalking where you live. This is not traditional stalking. This is stalking by population, and it occurs where the entity lives, where they work, where they have a sense of quote-unquote belonging. But by the way, the police don't have a sense of belonging in helicopter group stalking in the ways in which I've shown. This is shattering the malice with which, in other words, an entity is engaged in group stalking. And central core, the integral aspect of group stalking is sexual violence. All right. So nonetheless, at around 2:20 p.m., while my legs are spread open, panties are down, genitalia is exposed, in use of a tampon. And this is just description that everyone needs to be aware of, because everyone needs to know and shame the state of California that is a violent sex offender, and it shall bear no reflection on me or any other targeted individual. And it's also going to be that which is appreciated where group stalking is being exposed and prosecuted, because this is the type of sexual violence that a coven of demons, they engage in secret. All right. And they engage in and then seek to falsely depict that target individual that they are sexually violating, whom they are obsessed with. OK, that is how tragic, and also how preposterous the crime of group stalking is. Remember, the purpose of group stalking is not only to murder, but if not murder you, it is to kidnap you. And that is literally an entity that's obsessively stalking you because it serves Satan. Then she can just gaslight you, to put in terms that, you can, everyone is familiar with gaslighting, where literally the government is essentially blaming you because you lost your life, or blaming you because you're sitting in one of its facilities. And it is literally adding insult onto injury. And this is all of that which is simultaneously addressed as a matter of justice upon the prosecution of group stalking, and not just the prosecution, the ability for an American citizen to enforce their rights against the government that is a sex offender, that is a stalker. All right. So this is a documentation of bathroom monitoring. Bathroom monitoring is within the federal offense of the perpetual sex offense, which is a crime committed by an entity that is group stalking. All right. The entity is keeping you under surveillance in violation of Title 18 inside of a bathroom. The entity is engaged in the same pattern of conduct you have seen, I've taught, you're aware of. What are demons doing 24/7? All they're doing is pacing. All they're doing is pacing. And demons want to appear as though they're being productive. They're loading something. They're doing something. They're going. All they're doing is pacing. And they want to appear normal. This is Satan. Okay, that uses people. These are demon-possessed people, in other words, who are malicious. That's what that demon possession is legally relevant for. It will be referred to as malice. And in that specific environment, mental illness is exposed and sexual violence is exposed, because all they're doing is pacing while they're targeting one person and wanting to appear as though it's normal, everyday society. and that could not be farther from the truth. So this is documentation of the perpetual sex offense inside of the bathroom. And as Ontario International Airport flies over the Woodside Senior Apartments at a higher elevation than the fake sun, that is speaking to what is sexual violence that an airport is committed to, and the mental illness of demons who should have no ability to gain a pilot license. These are the same terrorists, sex offenders. They are threats to the public, where they are engaging in what is relevant to the psychological harms that you intentionally and maliciously inflict upon another, the desire, the appetite to harm another. It is the same legally relevant, and then also with regard on a human level, this is the same ingredients that are occurring within a human being that is capable of flying commercial planes into skyscrapers in order to kill, in order to harm a large amount of people at the same time. You need to understand the same ingredients are present with regard to the group stalker that should have no basis, no ability to maintain or to acquire a pilot license, and that's the education that the group stalking by the Ontario International Airport provides. A sex offender monitoring the inside of the private space. It is currently, the date is, it's not October, we're into November, my favorite month. It's November 3rd, 2024. It's currently 2:43 p.m. This is documentation of sexual violence. This is amplified audible activity, which is, again, none of it's an ongoing occurrence, a random occurrence. It's all intentional in a specific environment. So that's why I captured video of the impossible light activity that fills this apartment while the sound of like an earthquake is occurring. This sex offender that lives in apartment 55, this is a sex offender that's part of the senior citizen community. She's going to federal prison, but you've seen her exhibit her demon possession. That demon is group stalking my genitalia inside of a bathroom, where she knows exactly the moment that my legs are spread open, the moment when I am seeking to use a tampon. So you can imagine in your mind the posture that I maintain while demons are at that moment. It's those sick individuals who are collectively, corporately stalking somebody. Now's the moment. Let's amplify audible activity now. That's the predatory mindset of a sex offender that's monitoring you in that state. And what is that accomplishing with regard to murdering them and psychologically harming them? It's the intent to inflict emotional and psychological distress that the ordinary target individual reasonably suffers from when they're subject to that same pattern that they're witnessing, that they're subject to at all times, but it's also happening when they're sitting down on a toilet, when they're nude in the shower, when they are, in other words, physically indisposed, and they're putting two and two together that they're still subject to that violation, to that malicious means of being targeted inside of that private space. That's the psychological harms. That's the framework for civil and criminal recovery. Okay, and sex offenders are gratified by that. This is exposing what needs to be studied by the professionals because of the level of mental illness that's exposed, while I'm merely articulating, narrating what the demon-possessed population engages in, who's group stalking. All right, it's currently 2:45 p.m. again on November 3rd, 2024. This is documentation of the perpetual sex offense by the state of California. This is P.O.C. All right, the sex offenders surrounding in this apartment who you see group stalking in the video, that sex offender's name, this is also a witch, practices witchcraft, and she's doing it corporately with the people of the state. In case you did not know, understand that group stalking is demonic activity. It's a practice of witchcraft on a corporate scale. This is exposure of a witch coven and exposing all the harms that they are to society, to children, to the elderly. And that's, again, the elderly who are those demons are a threat to those that are not a part of that same condition. And so I'm documenting at 2:47 p.m. the criminal monitoring violation of Title 18, the same sex offender who you see acting with impunity. She's going to federal prison because she, in her mind, has convinced herself, along with the rest of these mentally ill demons, including an entire police department, and that this represents the state acting directly, that you are in any way free to empty dishes from your sink, put them in the dishwasher when you're criminally group stalking another, and you do so very boldly on video as though no one in the world, this is the mental illness that's exposed when you'll see on video this demon who's group stalking in a kitchen in that light activity that I showed you, and not fooling anyone. The entity engages in that, and it's supposed to falsely depict the target individual, and contrary to Satan's plan, it's exposing the malice, the psychopath that tries to sacrifice their own children. That is a career sex offender that places them up in order to be sexually offended by a population and a government. That's what's being represented when you're looking at activity creation in relevant position inside of apartment 51 in impossible light activity and under a fake sun. That's a demon that's group stalking, and that demon is also surrounding with the demon in apartment 55, where the ongoing booming sound is not now occurring in the bathroom where my panties are down and my legs are spread open. It's occurring right over my head in the living room at where I am in real time publishing this documentation. That's a sex offender who is also demonstrating, exhibiting impunity. The government is going to be prosecuted for the ongoing communication of an impermissible threat where the government is targeting you and then communicating by virtue of continuously group stalking with the demon-possessed people of the state. That they will continue to, in spite of the fact that you are literally blowing the whistle and the federal government is going to raid them. They're all going to be put in cages, and yet they continue to do so. Again, the third party, the sex offender, the Caucasian female who's over 55, who is stalking with amplified audible activity, is acting, and her license plate is 5WUV715. Her condition, being a demon, which again is relevant in the specific environment, demons who are group stalking, literally her demonic pattern of conduct captured on video is the ongoing conclusive evidence that she is indeed group stalking while living at the facilitating venue. She's engaged in ongoing harassment and terrorism as an entity, while the ongoing amplified sound of a boom, which is terrorizing to the ordinary target individual who is also enforcing their rights. The light activity is terrorizing to the ordinary target individual who was also enforcing their rights. And this is occurring while a psychopath that's inside of the apartment with you is group stalking right along with those demons who are following you around with light activity. They're following you around with amplified audible activity while they're engaged in monitoring your communication device, monitoring via communication devices, monitoring via interstate commerce, which again under Title 18 shall be prosecuted as what is the internet, because that's what the internet is, and it will be legally referred to and qualify as a means of interstate commerce where state surveillance is underway, because that's exactly what's happening. And I took a screenshot. It's 2:50 p.m. They are monitoring, in other words, the evidence. This is the state that's going to be prosecuted by the feds, and they are monitoring the evidence to be submitted in federal court against them, which is relevant to how long this sex offender in apartment 55 and everybody living in units 33 through 64 who are also going to federal prison. They are corporately communicating that threat. They're corporately maintaining the elements of monitoring. They're corporately surrounding criminally and maliciously on behalf of the government, living under a fake sun and engineered light, and maintaining the elements of monitoring, and doing so with corporate knowledge. Okay, this is prosecuting an entity that engages in this criminal endeavor of group stalking in the same way that you'll be prosecuted with the co-defendant that's robbing a bank with you. All right. So while that entity is engaging in group stalking together, they're communicating and very foolish and unrealistic. This is that mental illness, because you are going to federal prison. Everyone knows what you are doing. It's not clever. There's nothing elite about it, by the way. And it is barefaced group stalking, which is no longer a conspiracy theory. It is established as a matter of fact, and the entity is continuously and obsessively continuing to group stalk someone when they have already lost the purpose of engaging in that crime. So it's never going to be accomplished with regard to the conspiracy to murder and kidnap. And so why do you have the state of California still group stalking? Because they're waiting until they're literally subject to being dragged in federal court, because you're dealing with not only the intention to engage in the crime, but you're dealing in what is exposing evil. So even where you're not going to accomplish that objective, understand that this is exposing just what is wicked and evil conduct in the first place. And this evil and wicked conduct is born of that which is an obsession. People who cannot help themselves. Oh, they're going to learn to help themselves and deny their devilish compulsion to target another, or you're going to lose everything, which the state of California is going to be an example of. However, you're understanding what is that which is a compulsion born of demon possession. So in other words, they can't deliver themselves, they can't help themselves, they need real help that only the Lord Jesus Christ can provide. All right, but with regard to their conduct, they act with their own volition. They're doing so while they're living in the specific environment. So if you don't want to go down with Satan and Satan's minions, you're going to have to do extreme things such as stop going to work, stop living at that apartment complex. But it's not the targeted individual's business what you have to do in order to clean your hands, which under these circumstances, it's impossible. The entity has acted with an ongoing obsession because the demonic environment will remain even where, for example, the target individual is remaining in an apartment. And if you'll recall the documentation about a month back where the demon moved her car from the parking space, and that's supposed to suggest that there's nobody providing any sort of audible activity above you in the way that I'm documenting. Okay, that's not true, because first of all, the amplified audible activity is demonic on its face. All the demons are doing are maintaining presence in the same way that they're just maintaining presence living at Woodside Senior Apartments under a fake sun, the provision of Satan himself. And they just pace all around under it. They don't have to do anything for that environment to maintain presence for the criminal purposes of the entire entity. So you can leave your apartment and go to the mall all you want. You're still going to be prosecuted for the amplified audible activity that sounds as though it's coming from your apartment, because a normal human being is going to document what they're subject to. It sounds like it's coming from the ceiling. You use your eyes and your ears while the demonic is being targeted against you. You don't have to do gymnastic and some sort of spiritual gymnastics and how is Satan doing. These are psychopaths. You're going to document as a normal person, and they're going to be prosecuted for the satanic targeting that they are inflicting against an American citizen. That's supposed to result in your being defamed. It's supposed to result in them being able to kidnap you or murder you and claim that you're the one that had the issues. The ultimate gaslighting by that entity. In the same way, you're not escaping. And so this is, again, just showing all the tactics of Satan. Satan uses people. So these demons are acting with high level of malice while they are very highly unintelligent. And that's a very dangerous combination. A very dangerous and costly combination. AVANATH is being prosecuted for the ongoing terrorism by an entity that they will compensate me for, because they're making money and profiting while these demons that are paying them rent are group stalking, while the demons that are contracted with them are coming onto the ground engaging in landscaping. Those demons were landscaping, which you saw on video. They're group stalking. AVANATH is going to compensate. Their employees that are living in, for example, apartment 41, group stalking, coming to the office Monday through Friday, they're group stalking. AVANATH is going to compensate for that. AVANATH is a group stalker while it's occurring on their property of Woodside Senior Apartments as well. AVANATH has no shelter from civil and criminal prosecution, and AVANATH is going to compensate for what these demons at Woodside Senior Apartments are engaged in. And AVANATH is a group stalker, by the way, who's also in Irvine. Orange County is fully engaged in group stalking. The Costa Mesa Police, the Orange County Sheriff's Department, are the ongoing confirmation of that. It's sitting on video. AVANATH, the corporate headquarters in Irvine, California, is indeed group stalking. There is no shelter. They will be compensating for what I'm documenting, and they will also be criminally prosecuted for what Woodside Senior Apartments, this is a commercial means of prosecuting that entity, and also literally the demons living at this unit who are monitoring evidence. Okay, these senior citizens are in no way prepared for the federal response for engaging in state surveillance, and you have what are demons woefully unprepared for that level of a federal response, monitoring evidence that belongs to the federal government. They don't even understand the severity of what they're engaging in. But that is not a basis to in any way remove justice as it is required, because unintelligent people are engaged in state surveillance with the government. Be careful who you engage in criminal endeavors with, because you're going to be held responsible for what your criminal co-conspirator engages in. It's currently 2:56 p.m. This is criminal monitoring in violation of Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. That is the entity that is monitoring, threatening your life, safety, well-being, while you are capturing documentation, which they're monitoring. They know exactly what it is that you're publishing, and the government shall not violate you while you are documenting their criminal engagement in group stalking. That is the state telling the feds, no, you're not going to prosecute me for targeting this American citizen. That's tantamount to the statement that the state is making while they're monitoring your evidence. And I have years of federal stalking conduct. So these senior citizens are going to federal prison, and their Social Security, their disability is going right back into the state treasury because if they make it out of federal prison, because they're going for a prolonged term. By the way, Woodside Senior Apartments, years of state surveillance. Years of it. 2019, the police department, years of state surveillance. 2019, all right, on video for you to witness the maintenance of a fake sun. And by fake sun meaning it stays over me at the same address for the duration of the day. That's not the natural environment. These senior citizens are going to federal prison, and this is again acting with the highly malicious third party, Tracy Banks, who's monitoring her own daughter. Terrorists of this nature, exhibiting this level of malice, they're going to federal prison as a matter. It is axiomatic. Let me state it in these terms. It is axiomatic. Where a targeted individual is subject to the pattern of conduct, those closest to that targeted individual, which are literally the weaponry used against that American citizen. The government's relying on your so-called friends, those you are acknowledging as family, those closest to you in order to take your life and kidnap you. those are the ones that will maliciously sit in court and bear false witness regarding your mental illness, or testify regarding the fact that you took your own life when that third party and the rest of the entity targeting you is the one that murdered you. A bunch of demons sacrificing you and then crying on the news as though they love you and will dearly miss you. That's why she and people in that same status are going to federal prison. All right. It is intolerable level of criminal facilitations, 2:58 p.m. This is P.O.C. Documentation of federal stalking in violation of Title 18.